The US state of Wyoming is making big strides when it comes to cryptocurrency regulation. We're going to be covering what are some of those key regulations that have either already been passed or are being proposed at the moment. Now, this is particularly fascinating to see what is happening in an individual state, the impact that could possibly have, of course, for the whole nation. But when you see the current situation in the United States where we have a government shutdown and massive dysfunction at the federal level, we see states innovating, which is awesome. Now, some of the key things that have been talked about are, to start with, lawmakers from Wyoming have introduced legislation that would allow the issuance of tokenized stock certificates on the blockchain, of course. Now, that is not necessarily a new idea, but it's definitely an idea that is gaining in popularity. In direct issuance of stocks on the blockchain, not just third-party IOUs, because those have a whole different level of problem, as we know from seeing things like Tether, for example, where you have to trust a third party actually has what they say they have. No, these could be actual stocks, tokenized and put on the blockchain. That is very intriguing without a doubt. And that, to be honest, is the future of the stock exchange industry. But we're not there yet, of course. We are still only taking the first baby steps, but Wyoming wants to be right at the forefront of that. Now, House Bill 0185 would permit the use of tokenized digital share certificates in lieu of paper-based versions. The bill, if passed into law, would come into effect July 1st, 2019. Cool. That's really soon. We could literally see stocks running on the Ethereum blockchain, for example, as soon as July. And it might happen on Cardano, but that's a different story for later in this video. Now, two other very interesting bills have been passed quite recently amongst the whole other raft of things that have been happening in Wyoming. The first one is entitled the Wyoming Utility Token Act Property Amendments. Ooh, that's an exciting name. I love it. They have such great names for these kind of bills. Now, Bill 62, as we could otherwise say it, is significant in establishing a new asset class, defining open blockchain tokens with specified consumptive characteristics as intangible personal property. Cool. The definition notably means that said tokens do not require an exemption from federal securities. What? It does not require an exemption from federal security laws? What? That's the key, of course, right there, because what we have seen is federal bodies regulating, and the SEC has been notorious in its dysfunction towards the crypto industry, we could say. And we've had some positives and some negatives. At least the SEC likes Bitcoin, but the SEC hates ICOs, or maybe they don't hate ICOs, but they want to control ICOs. They want everyone to come and register with them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. To see an exemption from federal securities laws, now that could be very, very big. Now, the bill goes on to say the open blockchain tokens governed by this act do not constitute securities because a person who has sold a consumptive open blockchain token cannot receive a cash payment or share of profits from a developer or business, but instead will receive a fixed amount of consumable services, content, or property. So that's specifically about utility tokens, right? We can see with utility tokens that you don't get a dividend back from those. There is a different categorization for, of course, security tokens, and that will be part of what Wyoming is bringing forward as well. But in terms of utility tokens, we have seen a lot of utility tokens that have been shot down by the SEC, really needlessly, to be honest. So it's nice to see Wyoming bucking SEC orthodoxy in this particular regard. Because really, utility tokens aren't dangerous. Utility tokens aren't so evil that you have to shut them down. Well, they might be a bad investment sometimes. Sometimes they're not. Look at Binance Coin, for example. But they're certainly not securities. Something to keep in mind. Now, Bill 57. Good old Bill 57. is entitled the Financial Technology Sandbox. Well, this name's a little better anyway. This pertains to the creation of a fintech regulatory sandbox. We've seen a couple of these sandboxes arising around the world. For example, recently we saw that Bahrain announced a fintech sandbox. Now, this is essentially a supervised and flexible testing environment that provides waivers for certain statutes and rules that would otherwise hamper innovation. This is pro-innovation. They want to see the innovation coming. They want that innovation to be happening in Wyoming. Now, the establishment of this also reportedly aims to foster a welcoming business environment for the developers of new financial products and services, and thereby attract fintech talent to the state. Nice. Nice. It would be interesting to see the next Silicon Valley be in Wyoming, of all places. I think it's definitely time in the United States for the idea of flyover states to not really be a thing anymore, because it's one big landmass where lots of people live and lots of ideas and lots of innovation can happen everywhere, which is cool. Now, in the most recent bill, they also offer 3 different classifications of digital assets. We have digital securities, digital assets, and most importantly, virtual currencies. Now, this gives the same treatment as money within the state to things like Bitcoin. Nice. Keep it classy, Wyoming. Now, these classifications in themselves are nothing new, but the application of these classifications to cryptocurrencies specifically is awesome, because it provides regulatory clarity. And this is one of the things that most businesses quote when they say, we want to launch these products, but no regulatory clarity. Wyoming is trying to fix that problem. Now, the bill also means that Wyoming could authorize banks to opt into an enhanced supervision regime for digital asset custody. Now, this would be designed to meet the SEC's requirements for digital assets. SEC, still there. You can't get rid of them, really, when it comes down to it. Now, essentially, this would put a bank at the steering wheel, which would mean that you could see operation in all 50 states, thus making the SEC happy, because having a bank in charge of digital asset custody, you know, SEC and banks, they're kind of best buddies. They trust them for one reason or another. It's funny when you think about it. The SEC trusts banks to hold digital assets, and yet the SEC is the very organization in charge of issuing fines out to banks on basically like a weekly basis because they break the law. It's a weird world, guys. I just comment on it, but that's what's going on. But the most important thing to take away from that is that it would mean that Bitcoin would have legal status without the involvement of an intermediary. So that would be pretty cool without a doubt. Now, all of these things I've just mentioned is building on a whole raft of previous legislation that has come through in 2018 with the Wyoming Senate and House Representatives passing things like Bill 70, which relaxed securities regulations and money transmission laws for certain tokens offered via ICOs in the state. Also, a separate House bill regarding the exemption of virtual currencies from the Wyoming Money Transmitter Act was passed late last March, as well as a bill exempting virtual currencies from state property taxation in February last year, and a slew of further pro-crypto and blockchain bills, which have already been passed in Wyoming. Now, all that very exciting. Then we get this news. Cardano. Cardano, well, more specifically IOHK, is getting out of Hong Kong, and they're moving to the USA. And interestingly, they're not moving to Colorado, which is where Charles Hoskinson lives. No, they're moving to neighboring Wyoming. Interesting. Cardano just became an American company. Well, IOHK became an American company, or is in the process of becoming an American company. But the question is, who's next? Are we going to see other major cryptocurrencies moving their offices into Wyoming? Are we going to see COINBASE move into Wyoming? Are we going to see Kraken move into Wyoming? Are we going to see any of the other big crypto projects move their base over there? Well, we just might. And if we see enough of these companies starting to converge in Wyoming, that could become the next Silicon Valley or the next Crypto Valley. Like, well, Switzerland's already stole Crypto Valley. They've got Zug. But nevertheless, this could be Blockchain Valley, Block Valley, Tech Valley, Block Tech Valley, something like that. Anyway, I'm sure they'll come up with a very clever name when the time comes. But the idea to see all these companies innovating in Wyoming, such a smart move for Wyoming. Really amazing opportunity here that they are capitalizing on. And this just goes on and on and on with examples. Last month we had Teton County signing a memorandum of understanding with Medici Land Governance, a subsidiary of Overstock, to put its land registry on the blockchain. Now we've seen a lot of businesses wanting to get in, right? Fidelity, Coinbase backed, all these different guys. All of them are taking some degree of legal risk at the moment. Why? Because we don't have a lot of regulatory clarity. No one really knows exactly just how a judge is going to rule in certain cases of litigation or bankruptcy when it comes to digital assets because we have an absence of clear laws. Wyoming is working on fixing that problem. If it can be the first state in the nation to provide full regulatory clarity, where do you think businesses are going to go? Of course, the question is, well, what if next month California comes out and does everything that Wyoming's doing and more? Well, I guess businesses will probably just stay in San Francisco. You get that, I guess. But you look then at like New York, and New York has been so difficult with cryptocurrencies. They've made it unnecessarily hard to start a crypto business in New York, and it's driven innovation away from New York. And in spite of all that, you still have companies who want to make it big in New York. But the reality is, Wyoming might become the next tech capital of the United States. Maybe. You'll let me know what you think about it down below in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching today's video. You guys are super awesome. I love you all. Thank you so much for coming out and watching this video. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, a thumbs up would be supremely appreciated, my friends. And if you're new around here, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to stay up to date when I put out a new video. Long live the blockchain, and peace out till next time.